All right, so we're going to talk about persuasive speech, speaking. What is persuasive speaking? You're used to experiencing persuasion in many forms. It may have an easy time identifying examples. What do you think a persuasive speech is? Give me an idea. Think about that a little bit. What do you think a persuasive speech is? Give me an idea. Yeah.
A speech that aims to convince.
Definitely. Yes, Emma.
Maybe a speech that aims to change your way of thinking about something.
Yeah, definitely. How many of you have seen a commercial today? If you've seen a commercial, that's a persuasive speech. You know? And how many of you have gotten something, some kind of spam today that you didn't want? You know what I mean? That's a persuasive advertisement, but it's something that you don't want. And that's what it does. It tries to... The difference between a persuasive speech and an informative speech is a persuasive speech wants to force you to make, not force you, but to make you take action. Okay? So at the end of a persuasive speech, you should be trying to get people to join or send money or get involved. Okay, that's really important at the end of a persuasive speech. Persuasion, the art of convincing others to give favorable attention to our point of view. There are two components that make this definition a useful one. First, it acknowledges the artfulness or skill required to persuade others. Okay? So some people are going to be better at it than others. Some people are naturally born, car salesmen. You guys have probably not, maybe you have, Carolina, but a car salesman. And they used to, what they used to do is you would go in there and they would talk to you and they would say something like, what's it going to take to put you into this car? And I would be like the jerk and I'd say, oh, why don't you give me 15 grand? Then that'll put me into this car or whatever it is. So whether you're challenged with convincing an auditorium of 500 that they should sell their cars and opt for a pedestrian lifestyle, or with convincing your friends to eat pizza instead of hamburgers, persuasion does not normally just happen. How many of you think pizza is better off than hamburgers? Better. Yeah, that's good. Do I like pizza better than hamburgers? I'm trying to think. Who likes hamburgers better than pizza? Why?
Because that's just what I prefer personally.
Okay. Why do you prefer hamburgers?
Because I had a pizza burger before and it tasted pretty good.
Yeah, but what if you just have like regular pizza?
It was alright. I don't know. Compared to a pizza burger.
What about you, Kaylee? You're very quiet today. It's always disconcerting to me when you're quiet. Makes me think that you're going to take over the class or that you have an Uzi in your bag.
Uzi?
Yeah, you know what an Uzi is?
No.
It's an early form of automatic weapon, like an AR-15. Yeah.
I don't know. They're two different things. You can't really compare them.
Oh, so you're of the... Liam, could you speak more quietly? Because I almost heard that. What the what? Speak up.
The apples to oranges.
The apples to oranges? Okay. Yeah. But what you're trying to do is persuade somebody, okay? It's just sort of the way things work. And that's what you'll do. For example, say you had a speech that you wanted about why people should be more conscientious of recycling plastic. Okay? Because to me, it's stunning that with all the technology we've got, we still haven't figured out a way to recycle plastic bottles and that sort of stuff. Now, there are things you can do. They found a way where they sort of reuse it. Has anybody heard about that, where you can reuse plastic? Has anybody heard about that? Do you know what that is?
So I know like sometimes you can make things out of the reused plastic. Like instead of throwing it out, you can make like either bag holders, or you can decorate it, like do DIYs with them and just reuse them in your house instead of throwing it in the trash. I know that part.
Yeah, I've done that, with plastic. I've got plastic all on my desk at home, and they're all filled with pens and pencils and glasses and, all that kind of stuff. So I'm a big fan. Have any of you heard of Plastic Island? You know what that is?
Is that like floating somewhere near like Japan or something?
Yes, it's floating. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's a floating island. It is plastic refuse. It is, get this, the size of Texas. So all this plastic that we've put into the oceans has gravitated, it moves towards each other, and you've got this big, you've got this big island of plastic. I wonder if you could drop an atom bomb on it, and if it would do anything other than just spread it around. Probably not, because they say you can't recycle plastic. But there's got, to me, there's got to be a way. All right. This definition delineates the ends of persuasion: to convince others to think favorably of our point of view. And that's really what it is. You want to think. Now, some of the ways that we do that are we don't just tell you, you should recycle plastic. You take the points, and this is important. You need to do this in your speech. You take the opposition points, okay, and you say, so and so says that you can't, recycling plastic is not a good idea because of ABC. Okay. And then you say, but it has been shown that. So you bring the points that the other person is talking about would use to oppose your viewpoint, whatever it is, and then you just simply refute them. And that's the best kind of persuasive speech. And those are the kinds of speeches you will hear on the floor of the Senate, United States Senate, or the House of Representatives, while they're pretending to be civil. So, okay, different kinds of speeches. Speeches to convince. Some persuasive speeches attempt to influence or reinforce particular beliefs, attitudes, and values. In these speeches, called speeches to convince, the speaker seeks to establish agreement about a particular topic. Climatologist who believes that global warming is caused by human behavior might try to convince an audience of government officials to adopt this belief. Okay? So he's trying to persuade. Speeches to actuate. Other times, persuasive speeches attempt to influence or reinforce actions. Speeches to actuate are designed to motivate particular behaviors. Can you guys see this, or is this too... Can you see that?
Yeah.
Sort of? Okay. Think of a time when you found yourself up at 2 a.m. watching infomercials. Someone on the screen was trying very hard to sell you a $20 spatula that morphed into a spoon with the click of a button. I think that's funny. Okay. The salesperson described its utility and innovation for your kitchen. He described why it would be a good purchase for you. After all, how does a busy person like you have time to use 2 different utensils? But wait, he would say, there's more, right? We all hear that. In case he had already convinced you that you needed this kitchen tool, he ended his spiel with a final plea, an extra spatula for free. In this infomercial, the salesman attempted to convince you that you needed to buy the kitchen tool. It will save you time and money. And that is a great example of a persuasive speech that actuates. And we see those all the time. Okay? And then we get into the propositions, that can be defended through the use of data and reasoning. You've got propositions of fact. Questions of fact ask whether something can potentially be verified as either true or false. These questions can seem very straightforward, but in reality, the search for truth is a complex endeavor. Questions of fact rarely address simple issues such as, is the sky blue? They tend to deal with deep-seated controversies such as the existence of global warming, the cause of a major disaster, or someone's guilt or innocence in a court of law. Gee, have we been concerned at all? Has the nation been concerned at all with anybody's guilt or innocence lately? Who would that be? What's his name?
Derek Chauvin.
Derek Chauvin. He was accused of, he was on video. I'm murdering of George Floyd. And you got propositions of value. Persuasive speakers may also be called to address questions of value, which call for a proposition judging the relative worth of something. These propositions make an evaluative claim regarding morality, aesthetics, wisdom, or desirability. For example, some vegetarians propose that eating meat is immoral because of the way that animals are slaughtered. Okay? That's a good example of a proposition of value. Propositions of policy. They ask the speaker to advocate for an appropriate course of action. This form of persuasion is used every day in Congress to determine laws, but it is also used interpersonally to determine how we ought to behave. Proposition of policy may call for people to stop a particular behavior or to start one. They were sort of debating this kind of thing with, are we going to mandate masks? So what they did was they convinced businesses to say, if you want to come in here into our store, you have to wear a mask. And it wasn't that the stores had any kind of feeling one way or another. They may not have. They may have, but they did it because a lot of people, if everybody wasn't masked, a lot of people were going to stay home, especially people my age or older, okay? Because they didn't want to get COVID and die. Okay. Choosing a persuasive speech topic. In order to offer a persuasive speech, you must decide precisely what it is you want to talk about, to whom you will be speaking, and to what ends you hope the speech will lead. Persuasive speeches do not normally happen within a vacuum, even in a public speaking course, such as this. If you can get an audience, I'm reading the quote attributed to John Cleese. Do you know who John Cleese is? He and a bunch of other guys started Monty Python, and that was a British sketch comedy troupe, and they were very, very funny. He and his ex-wife also came up with a show called, oh my God, it was brilliant. But it was only on for 2 seasons, and it was on British TV. It wasn't on here. Faulty Towers, Fawlty Towers. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it's just some of the. I mean, it's just out there. The characters are so incredibly, mean-spirited, yet, but you really kind of love them. It's really funny. Okay, but he says, if you get to laugh with me, you like me better, which makes you more open to my ideas. And if I can persuade you to laugh at the particular point I make, by laughing at it, you acknowledge its truth. Okay? And that's very, very true. And if you can do that, if you can get people to laugh, I think it was Socrates who said, if you want to destroy something, get people to laugh at it. Okay? All right. In order to offer persuasive speech, you must decide precisely what it is you want to talk about and to whom you will be speaking, and to what ends you hope the speech will lead. Persuasive speeches do not normally happen in a vacuum, even in a public speaking course where that might seem to be the case. In fact, most persuasive speeches serve as a response to larger circumstances. For example, gas prices increase dramatically and drivers cannot afford to fill up their tanks. War veterans suffer from PTSD and can find little governmental assistance for the necessary treatments. An election is forthcoming and candidates need to secure votes. What are you noticing about those different prospective persuasive speech topics? They deal with issues that are a little bit, and sometimes very, very controversial. Okay? So you're gonna be dealing with a topic. Your topic is probably maybe controversial. Okay. There's one more thing I wanted to cover in here.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
So, I know like in the beginning when we say we choose our speeches,
Yes.
that's geared towards our audience and all that stuff. So, for the persuasive, if it's something that is very controversial, how do you come about, like when you give your speech, you know that some can be with you and some can be for you and some will be probably against you at the end, they'll probably hate you at the end. Like, how do you deliver your message, I guess? If it can be very controversial, do you have to tweak it in a way to where no one like hates you at the end?
Right. It's a good point. I mean, it's a good question. How do you, if it's controversial, how can you persuade everybody to go along with you?
Or even just to respect you, I guess, towards the end, like, okay, this is the way I see it,
Right. Well, here's how you do that. Okay? You don't worry about persuading everybody because you're not. Okay, so we can't do that. It's just not possible. That would be the first thing. The second thing is, and they talk about this through, you've heard me mention credibility. If you put your points forth in a credible manner, citing credible sources, your credibility grows, and people will, maybe they won't agree with you, but they'll understand your perspective. Okay? When we talk about changing someone's mind, that's sort of utopic. It's a sort of a utopia. If we can change someone's mind, that's great. But we have to try. Okay? So you may not be able to. Okay? So that's a good question. Then we get on to Monroe's motivated sequence. Pay attention to this because it's important. Monroe's motivated sequence is an organizational pattern that attempts to convince the audience to respond to a need that is delineated in the speech. 5 steps. The attention step should get the audience's attention. Have I mentioned that at all? Getting someone's attention? Have I mentioned that at all? All the time! Are you kidding me? Everybody, you need to grab our attention. The need step should provide a description of the problem as the consequences that may result. So if you don't do this, this will happen. Satisfaction step. If you take care of this, there's going to be you're going to be satisfied with the results. If we legalize medical cannabis, okay, it's going to be good for a lot of people. If we legalize recreational cannabis, it's going to be good for everybody. No. Okay. Then there's the visualization step. Audience members are asked to visualize what will happen if your solutions are implemented and what will happen if they do not come to fruition. Okay? So you have to sort of pay attention to the visualization. It just means you want to get people to look at the possibility. Imagine a world in which, we do away with Plastic Island. The action step, which I think is the most important, should be an appeal, a direct, it's a direct ask for action. Okay? You ask them to act. Send us money. Vote for this bill. Whatever it is. Here's the phone number. Here's the website. Okay? All right. The rest of this is very important, but I want to go on to group speeches right now because we're going to be dealing with those. Oops. Okay, but before we do that, I have to take a break and use the men's room.